Here's your wrestling news for April 2nd, 2023, and we're starting off with WrestleMania 39 as John Cena opened up night one of the event and looked to become a six-time US champion at the expense of Austin Theory. If you've seen Cena at WrestleMania, you'll know the 16-time world champion has had some epic entrances at the show of shows, but this year's was definitely the most wholesome. For Cena's entrance, some children from the Make-A-Wish Foundation had the honor of being on the entrance ramp with John, who holds the record for the most wishes granted by anybody. As for the match itself, it wasn't the night for Cena, and the bout couldn't help but feel off. John's performance didn't feel like a WrestleMania-sized outing from the all-time great, who hit all the moves expected of him, including a shoulder tackle and a five-knuckle shuffle. Neither Super Cena nor US Championship Open Challenge Cena was present at the grandest stage of them all, and after the referee was taken out, Cena was caught with a low blow and an A-Town down. The finish left the crowd a bit perplexed as there was no classic Super Cena kickout, and considering that John has kicked out of everything from the pedigree to sweet chin music to the rock bottom, this lost to Theory felt a little flat. Perhaps Cena's lack of in-ring time and possible ring rust led WWE to keep the match brief, and the bout itself wasn't entirely bad. John still gave a good performance, which, as Michael Cole pointed out on commentary, will be one of his last, and now Theory has the biggest win of his career to his name. Following his loss, fans have been left wondering if they'll see Cena in the ring again, which fortunately should be the case. According to The Sun, Cena got up to his feet to a huge ovation from the fans and proceeded to wave to the crowd and hinted that he'll be back. Cena hasn't been advertised for the post-WrestleMania Raw, and the odds of him appearing anytime soon are slim, but do you think John should have dethroned Theory? Sound off in the comments. WrestleMania Saturday also saw Dominik Mysterio make his singles debut at the event, where he faced his own father, Rey Mysterio. The pair have been through a whirlwind of emotions over the past year or so, from becoming the first father-son WWE Tag Team Champions in 2021 to Dominik's betrayal of Rey and Edge at Clash at the Castle. One of the biggest highlights of their match at WrestleMania came before the match had even begun, as both had their own special entrances for the bout. Dominik made his way to the ring in a prison van accompanied by guards, and the handcuffed ex-con sported a luchador mask not that different from his father. Rey, on the other hand, was driven to the ramp in a lowrider by Snoop Dogg, and given the choice of vehicle, WWE opted to play Eddie Guerrero's theme music for this part of the entrance, in a moment that will live on in the minds of all WWE fans who saw it. The second sponsored match of the night, this bout was brought to us by Cinnamon Toast Crunch, complete with a mascot jumping around at ringside like a maniac. We'll admit that Cinnamon Toast Crunch is a much better sponsor than TurboTax, but after all the shenanigans outside the ring, it was time for the in-ring action. An early spot saw Rey literally whipping Dom with his belt in a hilarious spot, as was Dominik throwing a drink in the face of his sister Aaliyah. Dominik's heel work has proven that joining the Judgment Day was the best thing that could ever happen to the young superstar, who is a much more rounded star now, rather than just being Rey's son. In his first meaningful feud in what feels like years, the recently inducted WWE Hall of Famer was able to get plenty of offense in on his ungrateful kid, but Dominik was also given the opportunity to show how dastardly he could be. The younger Mysterio is being built into a much more believable competitor, and even if he needs his Judgment Day family to secure the win, it doesn't take away from his personal skills. Speaking of the stable, Finn Balor and Damian Priest tried to interfere, only to be blocked by Legado del Fantasma, who have been rechristened the LWO, who sped up the pace of the bout. The highlight of their match was Bad Bunny snatching a chain away from Prison Dom's hands, allowing his father to hit him with the 619, and while Rey's victory was never in doubt, given how Dom has made his life hell, the real takeaway was that WWE pulled off a great story with an emotional narrative. But what did you think of the match, and what's your take on the entrances of both men? Was using Eddie's theme the right call, or did you find it in poor taste? In the penultimate match of WrestleMania Saturday, Charlotte Flair defended the Smackdown Women's Championship against Rhea Ripley, the same woman Flair dethroned as NXT Women's Champion 3 years earlier. Over the past few weeks, both women have taken shots at each other, and last night was finally time for both women to come to blows in the ring. While Ripley's allegiance to the Judgment Day makes her a heel, the Aussie was evidently the crowd favorite, and it's not hard to see why. Ripley has been firing on all cylinders in the Judgment Day, and anyone who has watched their feud in recent weeks can see that Rhea is the future of the division. Contrast that with Flair, who's still rehashing her dad's theme music, moves, and catchphrases, as she's been doing since arriving on the main roster nearly 8 years ago. Even if all of Charlotte's character was original, it's become incredibly dated and stale, with Rhea looking very fresh in comparison. That's not to take away from Flair's talent, which she has plenty of, but the fact that she spent much of 2022 away, only to return with the same character and to win the same title, shows just how stale Charlotte has become. Ripley's brute strength was showcased, with the Australian delivering a series of high-impact strikes, but Flair retaliated with her own arsenal of chops, just like her dad did decades earlier. These two traded some hard hits and excellent counters throughout the match, with Charlotte turning Ripley's Riptide into a DDT, earning a huge reaction from the crowd at SoFi Stadium. The look on Rhea's face after Charlotte kicked out of the Riptide told the entire story of this match, as the Judgment Day's Eradicator became more and more desperate to get the win. Rhea gave Charlotte literally everything she had, and eventually it was enough, after a second rope Riptide secured the win for the new SmackDown Women's Champion in a bout that was much better than what we saw at WrestleMania 36. This just goes to show how far Rhea has come since her NXT days, and Charlotte showed an intensity we rarely get to see from the former champion. As Ripley celebrated, the camera panned to Charlotte, who was outside the ring and was smiling through tears at her rival's big moments. A far cry from the animosity between the two on screen during the build to WrestleMania, it was genuinely heartwarming to see Charlotte Flair so happy for Rhea Ripley, especially after the fantastic match they had. It's hard to not consider this the match of the night, an accolade few would have expected going in, and while Rhea's star has been on the rise for a while, this match with Charlotte allowed the new SmackDown Women's Champion to reach that next level. Do you consider this the match of the night? Let us know in the comments. For Logan Paul's second time competing at WrestleMania, the Maverick went all out once again, and that included with his entrance. The Prime Energy drink mascot was the perfect level of nonsense one should expect from the social media influencer, and Seth Rollins had his own WrestleMania drip for his entrance on the special night. Paul was surprisingly dominant early on, especially when he was able to use his boxing background to throw punches, and if he's not on the same level as Rollins in the ring, the two are very close. Having him almost get the pin on Rollins after a KO punch was a fantastic moment, and is another sign why WWE should re-sign him, given the reports of his contract expiring this week. Outside of the ring, Paul's energy drink mascot was able to lend a helping hand, and was revealed to be fellow YouTuber and Prime Drink co-owner KSI, who caught the fans by surprise. Many would have expected the mascot to be played by some unnamed NXT talent, or perhaps revealed to be Jake Paul, and the mascot was a hilariously easy target for the architect. Rollins countered at the last minute so that Paul sent KSI through the table in a magic moment, though what is less magic is Paul continuing to use AEW wrestlers' finishers as standard moves. First it was the Buckshot Lariat, and this time it was the GTS. And while CM Punk is hardly a popular guy right now, using well-known finishers as run-of-the-mill moves isn't the best look. WWE made sure that Paul was going to look like a powerhouse in victory or defeat, and it was the latter that happened, with Seth getting the win after a super kick and a stomp. The fun of this match continued even after the bout had concluded, with a hilarious photo backstage showing a frustrated Paul and a hurting KSI on a stretcher, still with the Prime mascot costume on. With memorable moments and great storytelling, this was a match worthy of WrestleMania, and one we're hoping to see a sequel to if Logan Paul re-signs with WWE. There was plenty to keep fans entertained, but there was a huge name who remained backstage at WrestleMania 39. Sean Ross Sapp of Fightful Select reports that Vince McMahon was backstage at the event, and that talent were brief on the matter ahead of time. It wasn't noted exactly what was said about McMahon, but with the amount of cameras backstage, it's possible that any documentary covering the making of this year's WrestleMania will feature the billionaire. What we do know is that McMahon had his own office backstage at WrestleMania, located next to the gorilla position, and that he was heard on the headsets early into the show providing feedback and asking questions. Since returning to WWE, McMahon has been on the hunt for a potential buyer of the company, and those rumored to be involved were watching WrestleMania 39 Night 1 very closely. PW Insider Elite reports that representatives from potential buyers have made their way to Los Angeles, with the idea being that meetings will take place between WWE and potential buyers that are stationed in California. Whoever ends up buying WWE will need to have deep pockets, but names listed as potential new owners include Endeavor, Fox, Disney, Amazon, and Shahid and Tony Khan, among others. WWE is well aware that this year's WrestleMania will be one that buyers will be following closely, hence why the company cut down on staff for the show to make the event as profitable as possible. All the major details about WWE's future are being kept close to the chest, but there is a feeling internally that a sale is coming soon, and with WWE set to receive first-round bids after WrestleMania 39, we may be mere days away from the landscape of wrestling changing forever. With the rest of the Night 1 card done, the only match that was left was the main event, which didn't exactly get off to a great start. Before fans got to see Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens face the Usos, they were treated to a TurboTax commercial set to Safety Dance, which was just plain weird at this point in the show. And before we could get to the match fans were dying to see, there was an impromptu bout between The Miz and Pat McAfee. Now, we love McAfee as much as the next fan, but this wasn't enough of a buffer between Ripley, Flair, and the main event, and it didn't help that the crowd was hardly into McAfee's match, no matter how much high-flying or athletic moves he pulled out. Another delay with a performance by Little Uzi Vert, it was time for the main event entrances, and the crowd were on fire for those. With that said, as the match went on, you could tell the crowd were getting tired, but that didn't stop the four men in the ring from putting on an incredible match with an incredibly personal story. It was easy to get invested in this match, as the fans have been waiting to see the bloodline humbled, and this main event was the first brick to fall in the Roman Reigns empire. From bell to bell, the match was full of standout moments, including Sami hitting Jay with a brainbuster on the apron in a vicious maneuver. The story of the match was all about Sami standing up to his former family, but that didn't stop Michael Cole throwing in a cheeky El Generico reference that fans online lapped up. For anyone not in the know, El Generico was a beloved masked wrestler who just so happened to retire from wrestling to run an orphanage in Mexico, exactly the same time that the maskless Zayn signed with WWE. In an ironic way, this is really what Sami's year-long story with the Bloodline has been all about, namely the realization of being true to yourself and the acceptance that one cannot escape one's past. Try as he might, Sami Zayn was never an Uso, but it's clear that he still has love for the brothers, or at least Jay, even if it means he has to destroy the team to set them free from Roman Reigns. With deep meaning like this, it's no wonder why fans have called Zayn's year-long angle with the faction one of the best stories ever, and have called it a wake-up call to WWE to invest in more long-term stories. In the end, Sami and Owens got the win, and even better, it happened when Zayn pinned Jay after a series of emphatic haluva kicks. The Usos' loss now sets the stage for some serious business moving forward, both with Roman Reigns' upcoming match with Cody Rhodes and for Zayn and Owens' first reign as tag team champions. This match may not have been as good from a wrestling perspective as Ripley vs. Flair, but it was one masterful piece of storytelling, and it proved that the right match headlined Night 1. WrestleMania wouldn't be WrestleMania without some legends on the card, and the use of Trish Stratus and Lita was arguably the best way to use legends at the Showcase of the Immortals. Rather than going one-on-one with someone, which often results in the legend's limitations being on display, the pair of Hall of Famers were put in the ring with four fantastic full-time performers, which itself was a mix of established names and stars on the rise. At this point, Damage Control are arguably on par with the Bloodline for being despicable heels who will use their numbers advantage and underhanded tactics to do whatever they want. That was on full display at WrestleMania as they tore apart the women's tag team champions, which gave Trish Stratus the chance to make a fantastic comeback. Io Sky took the prize for highlight of the match with her moonsault to the outside, and once the match descended into chaos, with tag rules taking a back seat, things shifted into another gear. Everyone got the chance to shine, with Trish and Lita hitting their signature offense, and the 47-year-old WWE Women's Tag Team Champion proved again that she can hit a twist of fate as well as any Hardy. As expected, the good guys won and Damage Control were vanquished, but we wouldn't be surprised to see some variation of this six-woman tag in another match soon enough. The chemistry between the six was undeniable, and with Becky and Lita still holding the women's tag team titles, the two will need some opponents in due time. And we're ending with, yes, even more from WrestleMania Night 1, and with a show that good, some fans probably didn't want to leave. Well, those fans got their wish in the worst possible way, as after the show went off the air, there was absolute chaos from those trying to exit the venue. Fans took to Twitter to share videos where they revealed that they were trapped inside SoFi Stadium, and the WWE Universe even broke into a "SoFi sucks" chant while they remained stuck in the stadium. It was only after the emergency fire exits were open that fans could make their way out, and it was clear that those involved were distraught over such an awful experience after WrestleMania. With WrestleMania Night 2 mere hours away, we hope WWE has learned their lesson, as this could have all been avoided with some proper planning by the promotion and those in charge of SoFi Stadium.